All right. Well, we're here today on July 14th at 3 o'clock. So news change. I have news. We're going to talk about it here in a second. So someone tried to kill the president yesterday, or the former president, the current front runner for the Republican ticket. You
The
know,
presumed
I,
nominee. The
I don't,
presumed nominee. Donald Trump.
I'm not going to
Yeah.
vote for him, but
Yeah.
and I don't like him, but this is not the answer to this problem. So, all right, let me pull this up really quick because I just saw this pop up on my feed. I can get there. Here we go. So, local police officer encountered the shooter before he fired.
Okay, let's see.
Rallygoers noticed a man climbing to the top of a roof of a nearby building and warned local law enforcement, according to two law enforcement officials. One officer climbed to the roof and encountered him, who pointed his rifle at the officer. The officer retreated down the ladder, and then Crooks then took the shot. And that's when Secret Service shot him.
Huh.
Yeah, so
Interesting.
maybe that's why I don't know.
There's a lot of stuff coming out right now.
Did you see this one of the woman cowering behind?
Now, here's yeah,
I know
and I'm
it's not a good look, and I don't
it's
want to
not a good
pick
look,
on
but it's
them.
also let's be perfectly honest. Part of what we're going to talk about today is angles,
Yeah,
right? And she could have been doing her job and protecting the quarter she was supposed to guard, and it
absolutely.
was a bad angle. I mean, I am not going to fault anybody who was on stage because they all charged up on the stage knowing that people were shooting at them.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
will fault them for not being able to holster their pistol,
Now
but
I think
that's a
just
completely separate thing.
in the midst of a obvious security failure, there are going to be a lot of things that we're going to scrutinize at a level that's probably unfair, like
Yeah,
this,
super
like you're saying.
microscope,
So,
super
but
magnifying glass.
that's also being under the fact of a millimeter, centimeters away from, like,
So let's talk about this. Let's get into the physics of firearms for a minute.
okay,
Okay, you've hunted once, right?
yes,
Well, actually, you've hunted a couple of times, but we went bird hunting. But you've hunted deer once, right?
yes,
So that's the closest that we're going to come to. I have been hunting deer my entire life.
right,
Millimeters matter, right? Caliber matters. Knowledge of the firearm matters. And I told you this yesterday. I was like, well, if they shot at him with an AR, one, they were stupid because the original reports were it was 300 plus yards out. And I was like, if they shot at him with an AR, that's stupid because it's not the right kind of platform for a shot that range, right? And I'm not talking about killing people. I'm talking about like I deer hunt, right? It's also a very small caliber. An AR-15. Everybody gets all scared. It is a .223 of an inch, and they generally weigh between 55 grains and 65 to 70 grains on the outside. How much? What is that in ounces?
but I mean,
Let's
we're
see.
talking about a
Well, I'm getting to a
small.
point.
No,
So
I know, no, I'm just we're talking about a small little thing. Like, I mean, they're in a big casing. That was the first thing that I remember is being like, oh, the bullet looks big, but it's actually really tiny. Most of it is holding all the powder and everything. So,
yeah. Um, yeah. And so a 60 grain bullet, we'll just average it. A 60 grain bullet weighs 0.13 of an ounce. All
yeah,
right.
so
And is
not
only
much.
0.223 wide. It's a 22. It's a heavy 22. Um, most most hunting rounds are 30 caliber or bigger, which means they're zero point 0.3 inches or larger, right? Like a 308 or 30-06, two of the most common hunting rounds, or 30-30, some of the most common hunting rounds in America, are all 30 caliber, zero point 0.3 of an inch, which actually is, when you're talking about millimeters, makes a difference, right? Um, and are around 165 grains. Why does that even matter? Well, that's 0.37 of an ounce because, mass times velocity is force. And if they had used a higher caliber, heavier round traveling at the same speed, because they basically do, he would have been significantly more injured with the same shot. All
Yeah.
other things being equal, it would have cut his head open, may have cracked his skull, probably would have taken his ear off. So, and I'm not going to get into it too much, but all I mean, the point of all this is I have shot deer and missed by millimeters of where I wanted to, and it didn't kill them, or I've missed them outright.
Yeah.
So that happens.
I mean,
Also, it's
it was a good shot, is what we're
well, it
saying.
was it was
Well, I
it
mean,
was an yeah, it was a good enough shot. It was a good enough shot, but like when you hunt animals,
right. They
people
move.
moved.
People
He moved. He
move.
turned his head. I've had deer lower their head, move, shift their body, and you miss the shot. And to be perfectly clear, nobody should be shooting at anybody,
No.
right? This is not the answer. But I don't think a lot of people who don't hunt and don't know guns understand exactly how close this was to killing him.
Yeah. Let me see if I can. Do you have
That
one?
is an amazing image
I
right
know,
there.
isn't that great? Let me see if
Yeah.
I can find an overhead picture of that space. I mean, and so let's talk about the space for a minute.
Yeah.
Let me talk first because I have less
Go ahead.
experience in this than you do, and then I want to hear from your side, and I'm going to pull the picture up here in a second. Um, and the first thing that I sort of in my mind, and I go back to let's see if I can find a good one. I go back to like my experience with video games. Like that's sort of the way that I'm approaching this from because that's the closest thing that I have to any sort of tactical experience is playing games. And my first thought when pulling this up, when seeing this picture, was looking at a map of a shooter game, going, well, obviously you get on the roof of the building across from where they're going to be. Like, this is like when you play you've never played this. There's a game called Hitman where
Yeah, I've played it. Yeah.
the whole point of the game is to get into position. Well, there would have been four dudes on that up top of that roof that I should have had to kill first
Yes.
before I can take that shot, and there wasn't
Somewhere
anybody
there's a
up there.
better
I know none of these are
above
great.
video, or not video, photo that I saw. At least the news has had access to it,
Let's see.
that shows like the shot lines and stuff and where everybody was.
Let's try map. There we go. This is much better. Still not the one. There, here. This is the one I'm looking for. Yeah.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
So the blue dot here, I don't know if you can see my cursor or not, but the blue dot here is that video that we've all seen of those two snipers up on top of that roof that the audience was looking at. So the audience is down in front of Trump in here and they're filming up and you can see them. There's two dudes up on that roof up there. And if you look at the video, it looks like they're looking at him. Like they're
They
okay.
are, and
I just
and
want to preface one thing before we continue on here. We're going to talk in. I want to wildly speculate while we're
yeah,
talking here. So please,
nothing we're
I'm
saying is assumed as fact. We're going to speculate on our completely
because
ignorant position here.
and my completely ignorant position is this looks like this person was allowed to make this shot. Like I there are rumors on if you can't believe the internet for what it is, but there's a
It's
lot of people
conspiracy theories
reporting
running
there's
wild already.
but that there is reporting that those two guys up on the roof who were looking at this dude had him for 40 seconds before the shot and were denied authorization to shoot him. Now we know that those guys weren't Secret Service, they were local PD maybe.
That's
Uh,
what's been so. What I have heard reported was that the counter sniper teams were local SWAT and law enforcement, not
right.
Secret Service anti-sniper teams. I don't know if that's true or not. That's what has
Right.
been reported on the news that I've been watching coming into this. And if what you showed me right at the beginning of this is true, that there was a cop climbing up, they
Yeah.
may not have been given permission to fire if someone had been, if
Well,
another law enforcement man had been in line of sight. So that's,
then
again,
why was
minute
Trump
to
on
minute.
stage? Why was
Well,
Trump still on
absolutely.
stage?
And it's a completely separate discussion. But minute to minute, more information is leaking out, and we don't even know what all's true.
Yeah.
Let's get to the brass tacks. Pretend this has nothing to do with politics. There's my disclaimer. Pretend there's nothing to do with politics. If I had, I don't know, pull that picture up again. Pull that picture back up
I
again,
will.
real
Sorry.
quick, if you don't mind. Um, if I had placed a deer feeder on the orange dot that is Trump, and it had been planning to take a shot, there's a couple of places that I would have set up potentially, knowing that I was going to have to shoot at a deer-sized animal. It wouldn't have been where the blue dot is because it's too close. Animal's going to hear me, see me, spook, run away. But the top of that building is the absolute closest line of sight, and most deer stands are elevated to about 10 to 20 feet.
How
It's a
how far do you
perfect place, and you shoot generally, at least in Central Texas, um, your average shot is between 100 to 250 yards, with the sweet spot being about 120 to 150,
what's
which
that?
is exactly the distance we're dealing with there.
What's yards
140
to
yards,
meters?
3 feet 3 inches versus whatever ballparking it. It's the same.
It's about the
So
same. So
we're gonna.
this
That is a
is
sweet shot deer hunting.
optimal
Perfect.
shooting.
It's perfect. It's exactly where you would set up if you were going to plan to hunt a deer in that spot under a deer feeder. If you knew your quarry was going to be coming to that spot and you knew where they were going to be, that is exactly where you would set up.
Okay, 100
And
yards is 93 meters. So okay.
yeah, so
Okay.
it's super close.
That is super
But we're
close.
basically talking the length of a football field from the back half of
From
the end zone to the
from
back
end
half of
zone to
the
end
end zone.
zone. Yeah.
Well, the far ends of
Right.
the end zone
Goalpost
where
to
the uprights.
goalpost.
Yeah. So, which is what most people train on, right? If they're going to be hunting.
I mean, yeah,
Here's the other
what
thing.
is it? Isn't an average when you go to a pistol range, it's like 25 to 50 meters, but the
Actually, it
rifle range
generally
is like
runs in feet.
oh okay,
Pistol range generally runs in feet, and your rifle range usually starts at 100 yards,
and then it's
200
two.
yards, or 100
Yeah.
meters, 200 meters, or maybe 150, depending on which one you go
So
to.
this is right there in that typical. It's a little bit farther than the typical person fires at
This
100
is the
meters.
this is
Yeah.
the average deer hunter's shot in Middle America.
Yeah.
Um, so
So why wasn't there someone on the roof?
yeah, I mean, this should have been, which is getting to the point. That should have been in the sniper perimeter, which means you should have had a counter sniper team there, sitting on the
Well,
roof.
I mean,
And
it
if there's
seems like
not,
there should
whether
be
it's
someone on that building to cover for somebody in the crowd.
yeah, absolutely.
Like
And also there's clumps of trees all around. I
yeah.
wouldn't want to have to cover all those clumps of trees from what. And if that's the only sniper position, if that's the only sniper nest up there, they failed. Somebody failed at their job. Period.
I think there were two. I think there was one here, and there was. I don't know if you can see my
We
cursor or
can't see the
not.
cursor. Yeah,
Okay,
no, we
so I
can't see
think
the
there
cursor.
was that white building that's highlighted with the blue dot. To
Mm-hmm.
the right and down a little bit, there is a second building that I believe had a
Why
second
do you
sniper
have them
team on it.
paired up next to each other like that? Why not have one covering from the far distance and one covering here? It's basic tactics. This is and this isn't top secret stuff. So let's be very clear about this. You can find all of these tactics listed out in the Dungeon Master's Guide from multiple editions of Dungeons and Dragons on how to plan out a battle encounter, right? This is not rocket science. This is not new. And people are supposed to go scout beforehand. I mean, if you want to learn about that, just go read Tom Clancy, much
Yeah.
less anything else. They send people out ahead of time. Part of what they do, and people have been talking about this on the news, so this isn't secret. They go and they look and they're like, he's going to be standing there. Where's a dangerous spot? Oh, somebody could hide up there. Oh, somebody could hide up there. We need to have somebody over there. That building screams, I'm going to shoot at the person on the podium where the sniper
Yeah.
took the shot from. So whoever didn't have that building, you don't have to have a sniper up there, but have a cop standing on four corners of the building. Why weren't there cops around the building? Because there's been reports, I don't
There
know
were
if it's
cops
true or
in the
not,
building.
that there were cops stationed in the building. That does
Yeah.
you no good if people can climb up the outside of the building. And some people may not have been to fairgrounds, and I haven't been to this particular fairground. But a lot of those public access fairground buildings have ladders and easy access to the roof. A lot of them do. Um, I've been around a lot of fairgrounds in my life. It's not hard to get up on a roof of some of those buildings.
Yeah.
It's not like trying to climb up the side of somebody's house where there may be no fence or something. Usually there's some kind of access. Or there's a ladder laying around or something like that that you can get your hands on.
Well,
But
there's pictures of the ladder leaned up against the building.
there you go.
I
And
don't remember
and
where I saw it, but
how is the perimeter less than 137 meters? How is that building complex not covered? Why were there not cops everywhere looking for
well,
somebody? So
and
that means the
again,
guy
so
walked up with a rifle and a ladder and climbed the building, and people screamed, "There's somebody with a gun climbing the building." Sorry, and I'll let you talk
no,
now,
no,
but
no, no, no.
it's just
I
man, it's just plain incompetence. Or
well,
I'll let you
or
pick
it's
it up with
planned,
or.
or it's planned.
Yeah.
Like I mean, so
Now, to be fair, I don't think the guys on the ground, the local law enforcement, had anything to do with any plan. If it was conspiracy theory,
well, I mean,
whatever.
so here's my thought on this. Like, okay, so here's what we were talking about this just a few minutes ago, and we were like, let's record this. So here's my thought on this. Like, the argument for incompetence actually feels like a larger hurdle than conspiracy. I mean, obviously, conspiracy is really easy to jump to, and obviously, but like what you're telling me is that not a single person looked across the way at the building that was over there and thought, why is there no one up there? I remember I clicked on a one of the Biden um, press conference that happened in the last couple of weeks that he was incredibly late for. I had the YouTube
Mm-hmm.
feed just running while I was doing the dishes and stuff, waiting for him to come on. And there was this Secret Service dude just standing there, and I was giggling because he was like messing with his nose, and like it was funny. But like I was like, so I saw that, and then thinking about this, thought like, well, at some point some Secret Service dude stood at that panel to determine where people like, and
It,
nobody
it
thought that building was a problem.
it's supposed to go beyond that. They're supposed to have people. My understanding is they're supposed to have people who come in and game plan the bad guy,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they've been doing that since Kennedy, is my understanding. And the conversations I've had with law enforcement people who've had to work security, not Secret Service, you just security. You game plan what the bad guy might do. And if they miss that spot,
Like,
I mean people need to lose their careers over that.
yes. Well, I mean, I did see, just since I've been, this has been a really interesting, this is sort of the first massive kind of thing that's happened in this way where like it was sort of comparable to 9/11 in a way of like
Mm-hmm.
everybody does, no one, something has happened and no one knows what's going on
Yeah,
because
there's no answers.
it's so instantaneous that nobody knows what's going on. And what was really interesting about this is that X was had everything. Like everyone was posting and tweeting and retweeting, and it
In
was
real time.
really easy to figure out what was going on. Where then you would go, I messaged someone I had you messaged me with
Mhm.
I think a video or a clip or I
It
forget what it was.
Sagar, because
Yeah, Sagar
I had
posted.
happened to open up YouTube while I was watching some streaming show,
Yeah,
and Sagar was like, "Somebody just tried to kill the president." I was like, "Crap!
yeah. And
News,
so
news,
you sent
find
it to
news."
me,
Yeah,
and then I immediately sent it to another person, and got an immediate response back of, "Well, I heard it was no big deal," which I was already on X, was seeing blood down his face, going. My first thought was, how do you know it's nothing so fast?
yeah. It
Like
was such a dismissive
I
response. I think you
I
told me they
just
said something like there were firecrackers and Trump
and he
fell
and he,
down. It's no big
yeah,
deal.
something like that. Yeah, it was interesting. So, but it was. I also have been surprised by the response of people who are upset that this didn't happen. Has
Yeah, that
been,
the guy missed. Let's be honest. There are
yeah,
people who are losing their minds that somebody. I watched a YouTube or TikTok clip of some woman in tears because she said somebody finally had the balls to take the shot at the president and then missed. I bet it's some dumbass loser white guy. And I was like, what the hell is wrong with you?
well, so
I mean, do you really want blood in the streets?
yeah,
Because I don't want blood in the streets. I have
I don't
family that
either.
needs the pharmacy to keep running. So the monthly medications and
Yeah.
daily medications come in. I do not want civil unrest.
Well, I had a moment of, just sort of a flash of, call it precognition, sort of, you know, um, seeing an alternate future sort of thing, of just like this momentary thought of like, just what would have happened, because it would have been all over the internet. Like there would have been 50 different angles. I mean, there's 6 or 7 different
Oh yeah.
angles of it, of I mean, because then it would have just been pictures of his body on the ground, and I mean, could you imagine what would have happened? I mean, because I was
Yes,
telling
I
you,
can imagine what would happen, and it involves violence in the streets to the level
yeah,
that would make the Rodney King stuff look like a joke.
and so I had a moment of understanding last night when I realized what's actually happening here. Now, again, I'm going to just preface for the millionth fucking time. I don't like Trump. I'm
Yeah,
not
you're
voting.
not going to
I'm
vote for
not
him.
voting
I've
for
known for
him.
years. We've been
I
having this
I
discussion for a
don't
while.
I don't agree with a lot of his positions. I also don't think you should kill him. So like that's like there's a hard line there. But like I took a look at sort of like, if we're going to if I'm with the understanding that we're talking about potentially a fourth wing of the government, like that this was a hit. Like I mean, if this was a hit, so
If we're going to assume the dark bureaucracy that's been there since
right,
JFK is still here,
right. This is just the CIA taking out the next person that
or
they don't want,
whoever,
or whoever,
yeah,
whatever. I looked at this and I went, okay, let's go all the way. So he got in. No one expected him to win. So
yeah,
they didn't. They spent
they
the
had no
his
plans for Hillary to lose.
so his whole presidency was just in the moment he won, Russiagate started, which all
Hmm.
turned out to be completely made up.
Yeah.
There was definitely a cover up during of the Biden laptop thing during the election to
Hmm.
try to benefit not him.
The FBI
Um,
was colluding behind his back the whole time, which we
right.
have documentation that has happened, and
As
nobody's
we
lost their
get
job.
to January 6th, and this was sort of my realization last night, was like, because I was thinking about what happened yesterday, which was they needed more security there. There's reports that they were asking for more security. Clearly there weren't
Hmm.
enough people, there was not enough security,
Resources, not enough
whatever it
resources.
is.
Period.
And
Yeah.
I went, I went, oh, they denied him the resources. And then I went, oh, okay, so they let January 6th happen. Like if the National Guard had been there, which Trump had recommended, which again, I'm just going off what I hear. Reportedly, Trump said that they should
Offered.
probably do it.
Yeah.
Nancy Pelosi apparently declined it.
Yeah.
we've heard stories that doors were opened and people were let in and
There's
walked like
video of cops
it.
escorted, like, go
So
on in,
so
go on in. Yeah.
it appears that that was allowed to happen so that there would be a thing that you could point at to hang
It
on,
should have been, yeah.
that you could point at to say this is why they're bad. They've spent the next 4 years. They're still sending people to jail for this. There was
Hmm.
some actor from Bob's Burgers who just had to finally admit guilt and pay some fine. I mean, they are still going after people.
Cases have made its way all the way to the Supreme Court over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like clearly an example is being made because a church got set on fire and I don't think anybody went to jail for that. Like there was some crazy stuff that went down during Black Lives
Well,
Matter and
yeah,
even
the
during the women's
2020,
marches
the
and stuff. Like there
2020
was
Summer of Love, where, we can't even talk about how much violence, damage,
right.
destruction, vandalism,
And
businesses. And as far as I know, the only person who was put on trial, to be fair, was the Kyle Rittenhouse guy, and he killed 3 people, but it came out that it was in self-defense. They were coming to kill him.
and to continue with that sort of on that goes, the media did a really good job of not telling you the facts about
Yeah,
Kyle Rittenhouse.
yeah.
Again, whether you think he should have defended himself
Yeah,
or
if you
not, or
listen to the
whether he
media, it
should have
sounds
been
like he
there or
shot
not,
3 black guys.
yeah, and it wasn't. And two of them were felons, and two of them were actually really bad people, and
Hmm.
it, that doesn't matter.
We're
So
not going to get into all that, but
so you go to look
the
at
story didn't match the facts.
January 6th, and you go, okay, so now we're gonna clearly someone let that happen because Nancy Pelosi let that happen, and
Yeah,
that's
period.
she declined the security, so you'll put that on her, which puts that on the DNC. I would assume. I'm assuming someone
And it
told
looks
her
good
to
for
let
them.
that happen. It looks
It
good.
should
Yeah,
have should
it
have
makes
been, according to all normal political calculus, the nail in President Trump's coffin. That's what it
but
should
I
have been, or
but I
political coffin.
think the problem is that the people are starting sort of like I am at this point of like, okay, I don't like him, but this is something's going on here. Like
Hmm.
this doesn't work. So then, so then January they try to impeach him again and do all that stuff, and none of it works, and he gets away with that. Okay, so now let's go back to the crimes before. Let's go ahead and let's create some new laws to try and go after him for
To
crimes
turn a
where
bunch of misdemeanors into
two
felonies.
two different crimes where there were technically no victims because the Stormy Daniels case, no one got defrauded, everybody got paid, everything
Hmm.
happened. It was a financial book error. I mean, legitimately the best I can understand is whoever wrote it down in the ledger didn't write it down right. And so they somehow were able to turn that into a campaign finance crime. I,
Misdemeanor,
I
which then they
really don't
tied
under
to, which they then tied to some federal crime that wasn't he wasn't charged with, to
right.
make them all felonies.
So that they could get around
The
the
statute of
time,
limitations.
the
Yeah,
statute of limitations. Yeah. So
yeah.
that was and then the other one, the New York one, was like he fudged his numbers when he told them how much his stuff was worth so that they loaned him more money, which he paid back in full.
Full
And
after
the
they
bank
had their people evaluate it too and say, okay, that's a
and
valid
say this
number.
is fine. And then they said that they would be willing to do business with him again. No one lost any money, but the crime, as best I could understand, was that because he borrowed more money than he was worth, that somehow denied poor people money that would have been able to borrow it if he hadn't taken it all.
Yeah,
Like that
but
was sort of the
those are banks that, don't lend to individuals. They lend
right,
to large corporations.
right.
It's not like going down to
But
your local credit union.
that was the woke logic
And
that was the
was
message that
found
I heard.
was found guilty with no jury trial by a judge, which, is
And
that may have been his own lawyer's fault, from what I've
I
heard.
know I
but
know that there were I heard that there were, his lawyers made some bad decisions by not doing some things, but it also the way it sounded like to me, when they said that Mar-a-Lago was only worth $80,000 or something, you're just like, okay,
that's
like
horse crap.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm willing to have you argue to me that it's only worth, you know, $800,000 because you're actually so like I was gonna say like you can make because my house is worth almost double what the state says my house is worth because they can only raise it so much each time. So like
Yeah, because there's
I
a
can
state cap
understand that,
limit. Yeah, yeah,
right, which is
absolutely.
what that number was.
Not
The
the
num
actual retail value if he had put it on the market, which is what it's
Right.
actually worth.
Right. So what
And
they were saying is that
what you're supposed to be able to borrow equity on, because
is what it's
I had to
worth.
finance equity on my house, and they're like, this is how this formula works.
Hmm.
I didn't get to give them a number. They had to verify the number
Right.
through an independent third party.
They have someone, I mean, if I want to take out a home equity loan, I have to have someone make an independent appraisal.
Yeah.
I'm sure they don't just
And
go
I have to pay for it.
I'm sure when Trump borrows money from Deutsche Bank, when he goes and says my apartment's worth $20 million, they don't just go, "Okay." Like he's either handed some old appraisal to them or they've assessed it
No,
themselves. Like
because
they
that building is collateral.
right. That's if he defaults on the loan, they need to be able to get their money back and they want to make sure they're not going to loan him I'm sure
It looks
and
fishy. We can all
it
agree
does.
it looks
It
fishy.
looked but all the
But
cases looked
it
weird
didn't work.
and it didn't work.
It did knock him out.
And and then you start, now the rhetoric picks up because it's women's rights and threats to democracy
Hitler.
and
He's
and he's
Hitler.
Hitler. Well, did you see the most recent New Republic cover?
No, I did not.
Let me see it. I saw this and I don't know if it's true, so let me see if I can find if it's actually it could have been somebody made it. Maybe it's fake.
There's a lot.
But I
Like I
saw it
said,
floating.
the fake stuff's crazy. I just saw President Reagan talking about how this guy shot at Trump with an AI thing. It's crazy the stuff that you can do now.
See, this is here on Twitter, but I don't know if this is. Oh, this is from the New Republic. Okay, so
Okay,
this
so
is
it's
their
real.
Twitter feed, so that's legit. Let me show you what this is. So this was the cover.
We chose this cover image. Oh yeah, they used. Okay.
We chose this cover image based on a 32 Hitler campaign poster. Today at the New Republic, we can spend this election year in one of two ways. We can spend it debating whether Trump meets the 9 or 17 points that define fascism, or we can spend it saying he's damn close enough and we better fight. We unreservedly choose the latter course, and so we have assembled herein some of our leading intellectual historians of fascism. A member of the Fourth Estate who learned firsthand the Trump lash feels like. A leading expert on civil marriage.
And so some poor stupid 20-year-old is being fed this kind of stuff by the media and decides that he's got to do something about it.
Yeah.
If, okay, if there's no grand conspiracy to eliminate Trump, the argument can be made that this action is directly related to the rhetoric from the DNC and the sitting president calling Trump an existential threat to our democracy, a dictator in waiting, which has been parroted by most mass media.
And I
So
saw
this
some
shooting
quotes.
is ultimately Biden and the DNC's fault.
I saw some quotes that apparently day before yesterday, um, that Biden directly said in some private thing that it's time to put Trump in the crosshairs.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Apparently, Trump made his tea time this morning at 9 a.m.
Did you
There's
see?
video of him. There's
Did
video of him walking around.
Did you
He's
see
not.
that apparently last night there
It's
was a 50
crazy.
Cent concert and he slapped Trump's face
Yeah, I saw that
on and
picture on.
the memes have been priceless. I do have to say that. And here's the big one. You remember the Obama Hope poster?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Somebody did the same thing, saying Hope with Trump with his fist up
Yeah.
under the flag coming down, and I'm like, I saw that image and I just went, "Man's won the election.
Yeah.
Man just
Well,
won the election. They just handed it to him."
and so here was an interesting thought that something that happened in my mind is that happened, and I went, "Oh man, is this set up? Is this a setup?" Because I was like, "It's too perfect. It's too perfect. Like the pictures and the and then we talked about it, and I was like, you don't take a shot at somebody's head, like not
No,
that close, because you mess up
he
and
hit
they
him.
die. Like,
He hit him,
yeah,
and you're talking like a 16th of an inch the other way, and he's dead. I mean, eh, you can see. You know how I know it was not a setup. There's the picture of Trump's head like this, where you can see the
yeah,
bullet
the bullet
moving
going
past him.
past his head.
That's not a setup. He didn't know it was coming.
Tulsi Gabbard. Those who are in power determined to stop Trump have tried to convince us for years through their propaganda media that Trump is another Hitler, and like Hitler, he will completely take away our democracy. This assassination attempt is a consequence of this demonization of Trump by propaganda media and deep state. While they may not be directly behind this particular assassination attempt, they are responsible for it.
So exactly what I just said,
Yep.
right? Yeah, I mean, Tulsi Gabbard for president, please, please. You know, uh,
Well, I told you yesterday I don't
and
think
let's not
I don't
forget,
think Trump can't win now. Well,
yeah,
here's the other thing. It, I we looking at what we're talking about here, like if this legitimately is the deep state CIA, then we're talking about the same people who are covering up for the UFOs,
yeah,
and he very easily could get bumped into by someone and contract a disease and
heart
die in
attack,
an hour.
yeah, the chemical heart attack that the Russians supposedly used for years and years and years.
Oh, look, his
Um,
hands don't work. It's
well,
stuck.
yeah, yeah. To be
He's
fair, the
I
man,
know.
it's elder abuse at this point.
It
I may not
is.
like policies. I may not like his politics. I may think he's been a scumbag the bulk of his life. I mean, the man says, what has the government ever done for you, and then follows it up with, "I've been in government for 49 years." Well, you've done nothing for us. But what's happening to Biden right now is elder abuse, straight
Yeah.
up elder abuse. But let's also look at the vitality of them, because Pelosi's older; she's still moving around great. Biden can't make it up a flight of stairs,
Yeah.
and Trump took a shot to the ear, hit the ground, and bounced up with his fist in
Yeah.
the air.
And he's playing golf today.
He's playing golf today, which the best meme ever was WWE Hall of Famer no cells assassination attempt after getting shot.
Yeah.
Or no cells getting shot. And for those who don't watch wrestling, a no cell is you ignore the move. It didn't work, right? It's just it was. I saw that and I almost fell out of my chair laughing. It was so funny and absurd because it is. It's like, and Musk, love him or hate him, I'm not a huge fan of Elon Musk, but he tweeted out, we haven't had a president this tough since Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, Teddy's still tougher. He finished his speech, but
Well, to be fair, he would have if they'd had let him.
if they'd let him, yeah, yeah.
If Secret Service had, I guarantee you.
The policies after JFK died
No, no, no.
changed drastically, and so
But
there's, yeah.
but I
He
I I guarantee you that if the Secret Service, if he had been able to stop them from taking him off the stage,
he
he
did
would have
stop
got.
him. He
But I
stopped
mean,
them long enough to do the
really,
fist pump. I
really
mean,
stopped them and gone back up to the podium and got back up and said nobody stops a bull moose and like
yeah,
did another
yeah.
20 minutes. I mean, could you imagine what the speech would have been? I mean, like again, like
It would have been
it would have
he's
been the greatest. It would have been the greatest speech. I mean, it would have been historically the most.
It
I
would have been nuts. I mean,
it would have been
to be
insane.
fair to him, I think he's probably better off because the expression on his face. He was rightly furious that someone just tried to kill him.
Oh yeah.
So he would have gone off the rails if he had been allowed to talk.
It would have been so. That's what I
I
mean. It
mean,
would have been so
so,
good.
but
Yeah.
he has also been, and I'll say this: I didn't expect this out of Trump. He's learned. He's listening. He seems to be doing what
Well,
his advisors are saying because Biden flubbed the debate, like train wrecked it, and Trump just shut up and let him continue to wreck himself.
they spied on his campaign, impeached him twice, stole the election, banned him off social media, raided his house with the FBI, indicted him 4 times, convicted him of 37 felonies. What makes anyone believe they wouldn't limit Secret Service protection around him so a gunman could end it all? These people are evil.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's and the thing is that there are people who have been so convinced that he is evil
yeah.
that they're kind of disappointed it didn't work.
Oh,
Like they'll
not kind
never
of disappointed.
well,
There
no,
are
no,
people who are
no, no,
livid it didn't work.
no, but I'm talking about the people
Oh, you're talking
who
about the quiet ones who won't admit
the
it.
quiet, boy,
It's
it
kind of
looks
like the
like it
quiet
it
people who
it,
are going to vote for Trump that won't
it
tell
looks
anybody.
it looks like the Secret Service might seriously messed up. Well, that's a shame. Like, oh, you're not really upset that he
It's
didn't
like that
die.
Democrat
Like,
staffer who just got fired, the one I was
yeah,
telling you about earlier, who was like, nobody should kill anybody over politics, but next time aim better. And
yeah,
to that person's credit, they were terminated as soon as they found out. They just
right.
like
That's wildly an
you have no
inappropriate thing
place
to
in American
say, but
politics. Get out of here. Yeah. Yeah, this is wild, man. This is I never thought I'd see something like this.
I
Uh,
somebody also pointed out that I don't know. I don't remember what it was now.
the other thing I
I
want to throw
lost it.
out there is love him or hate him. I think the 12-minute response that you sent me last night of Kennedy's response to this was great.
Hmm.
Was very well done, and he had a lot of good stuff to say. Like, let's take a step back, let's take a deep breath. This isn't the end of our democracy. If this man gets elected, we can't go here. This is a bad road. And if anybody's going to speak from what political violence does, Kennedy was there when his dad died. So we need to listen to the man. You don't have to
Yeah,
agree with him on viruses. You don't have to agree with him on anything else. But he's an expert at what happens when someone shoots you
yeah.
because they don't like your politics.
Well, I mean, I said to you yesterday, and I stand by this hope. Like, it'd be really amazing if this actually calms everybody down. Because I have seen a couple people noticing, like, hey, nobody's in the streets. Like,
Well,
no,
and what
if
else is
if
interesting?
someone had taken a shot at Biden, people would be in the streets.
Yeah,
Like, I feel like,
yeah, there'd be calls to have Trump put in irons and thrown in jail and all this
yeah,
other
this is
stuff
all your
going on.
fault. You've,
Fault, yeah.
yeah,
Um, what I think is very telling is the Republican National Convention is going to be this week, and the DNC has ordered almost all of their campaign stuff. Like they
mhm,
did all paid for all those bus wraps and things and all of those. They've ordered it all removed because it was all Trump is Hitler, Trump is Hitler, Trump is Hitler type stuff.
yeah,
So they now can't say that anymore and be honest about politics, right? They're saying we
yeah.
have to stop the rhetoric. Well, they're the ones spitting out the rhetoric. So that and I think that's all they had to try and stop Trump was the rhetoric. Now
Yeah.
they're going to have to argue on the issues.
So Ashton just tweeted some guy talking um, about this kid that he was a loner. He got bullied a bunch. He fell for all the COVID mask propaganda. Like think about I mean that think about that. Like that's he got wrapped up into that whole
Yeah,
COVID panic. That really screwed with a lot of people's brains.
especially people his age.
Yeah.
And I speak at that, being the parent of a 19-year-old, and the reason one of the reasons my 19-year-old came through it very well is it's like go outside, do things, be, still live your life, don't be. And to be fair, a lot of people didn't have 30 acres to go play on and a lake right up the street like my kid did.
Yeah.
But we didn't he didn't hide inside. He didn't even distance from his friends. They all went and camped and hung out and did all that
Yeah.
stuff like everything was fine. Um, he got the first round of shots, and then I got information about it, and he never got his second round. Of course, I because of work, I had to take the shot, so I got the ghetto one, the, the Johnson and Johnson one, the
Here,
one shot one.
let me put this back up here.
And he never got COVID. My
Yeah.
youngest never got the vaccines. He never got COVID. So that this has not aged well.
Roseanne Barr reposted Joe Biden's tweet from June 28th. Donald Trump is a genuine threat to this nation. He's a threat to our freedom. He's a threat to our democracy. He's literally a threat to everything America stands for. And then
Yeah, and then the
perfectly
one
right
right
below
below it.
it, this is what you wanted all along.
Yeah, you know what? She has said she's lost her career over that tweet, and I'm like, yeah, you should have. You called for the death of somebody.
Yeah.
I don't want to give him any credit. Let's get his face off of the thing. I mean, I don't like giving
No,
FaceTime
I
to any of these people.
well, I'm
The other thing
also
that's interesting
here's the
about
other thing.
this,
You
oh,
sure it's really him? You
no,
sure that's actually the shooter? Do you believe the
I don't know. I haven't seen the
I,
dead body.
you know what I mean?
To
Like,
be fair, um, yeah, it's not like we haven't had patsies before. They just didn't have to wait for somebody with stage 4 cancer to shoot this one like they did with Kennedy. Yeah, I said the quiet part out loud. Uh, here's the other thing that I think is very telling about this. If you watched Biden's statement last night, there was no President Trump. It was, hey, I'm going to call Donald. I'm going to see if he's okay. Because they used to be friends before Trump was
yeah,
a
Biden,
politician.
Trump used to be a Democrat.
Yeah. And Biden was like, I'm going to call Donald and I really want to talk to him tonight. I'm like, that sounded like somebody who was concerned that something had gotten out of hand, is what
Yeah.
it sounded like. I don't know, man. That's about all I've got for this. You got
I saw uh a lot of what I'm seeing is people right now sort of going, again, coming back down to the where we sort of started this with at Secret Service, like
mm-hmm.
this is either a complete and utter just disaster failure of epic proportions. And a lot of people were posting that the current director of the Secret Service is the former head of security for the Cheetos Frito Lay or whatever. um
Which that shouldn't be. I mean, that should be a career Secret Service person. That's who should be in that job. You want somebody
well,
who's
and
been
i'm
there, done that
i'm
to run that
wondering, and
agency.
and I don't want to get into the rhetoric of like women shouldn't be in men's jobs kind of thing, but like this very well could turn out to be a DEI failure of
Maybe
we had the wrong people in the wrong positions because we needed to make sure,
we
you know
hired them based not on their qualifications, but based on a whole bunch of other
potentially.
criteria
Yeah.
to check a whole bunch of boxes.
Yeah. I mean, cuz
And I've always
just
said the best way to, not have like racial discrimination and gender discrimination is to remove all of those things
Mhm.
from the resume.
Yeah.
So when you're going to look at who are you going to hire, you don't know what their gender is if they have one. You don't
Right.
know what their race is.
Well, and they
You
and
know,
they also have to complete physical requirements. And again, if you want to
absolutely
believe, there we know in other industries that those standards have been
lax,
shifted to
reduced.
ensure that other, people, that it's more equitable.
Yeah,
That so I saw somebody paying at some point like the Secret Service has been complaining. Agents have been complaining about the changes and the thing, and to make it
Yeah,
easier
and the
for.
attitude now is so different than what it used to be because I can still remember watching GI Jane, and they tried to put all those little cheat things in for her to be able to pass because they wanted a woman SEAL, and she didn't use them and competed with the
Yeah,
guys and did that and earned her spot in the movie. If they made that movie now, that's not how that would go at all.
right.
So,
Yeah.
all right, man.
All
I
right.
think
Yeah,
that's a good place to
that's
put a pin in it. Don't shoot at politicians. Vote them out. How about
yes,
that?
that's
That's
good.
that's how you get rid of politicians. You vote them out.